Welcome to Common Unity, the podcast that unveils the unique life stories shaping the individuals of today.
Often, it's scary, right? When you're going to start a business, and I've had a few people be like, how do you just take the leap?
When you play to your strengths, you experience ease, excellence, and enjoyment.
Yeah, right time, right place, but you put yourself in that place. That luck never happened without all the work that led to you being in that place at that time.
Who cares how people look at them? Whatever keeps you ticking, until you get to the next thing and figure it out.
Join us as we unravel the triumphs, challenges, and pivotal moments that have crafted the path of our guests. I'm Jason Fox.
And I'm Nick Fennell.
Let's get into the show.
I'll just kick it off.
Yeah, go for it, brother.
Welcome to Common Unity. We've got another episode here. I'm excited for this one. We've got Carl Tjaberings here with us, and that is actually the name of his business as well. And we met a week and a half ago watching some UFC. And welcome to the Common Unity podcast.
Cheers, Nick. Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited for this, bro. First podcast for me, so.
Nice. So I was a little bit nervous and a little bit cool,
Yeah,
so we'll get into it.
I was nervous, same feeling as excitement, so.
Well, when Karl and I met, we were sitting down on the couch watching some UFC, and we got talking, and I heard that he helps men with massive breakthroughs, whether it's, or maybe you can just explain in a nutshell a little bit more about what you do. But
Yeah. So I help men with subconscious prisons, programs that sort of call it, and negative emotional addictions. So basically getting to the root. I help men that have been to psychotherapy, done the men's groups, tried all the stuff, but they can't seem to get that root problem. So I feel that the work that I do hits the spot. It gets right down there.
And so as soon as I heard that, I was like, bro, we have to do a podcast. When can you come in?
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So
if we in this podcast, we just try and start with where people's stories, how did you get into this line of work and what kind of motivated you to head down this path?
Yeah, so how did I get into it, man? Where do I start? So it all started off with a bike accident, bro. So about 4.5 years ago, I can't remember specifically how long, but 4.5 years ago, I was after work, man. I was down at the bike track doing some doubles, some jumps on the mountain bike, and I remember it so specifically. It was I was a real fatigue because it was in Perth at the time. It was 35, 36 degrees, just cooked as already after work. Done a double, overshot it, came down, front tire slid out, smacked my head on the concrete. And just sent me. Lucky my partner at the time there was videoing me. I was like, come video me, and I think because she was there too, I was going a bit too hard on the hucking it up, and then I came down and slid out, and then bang, got knocked out. And here I was going I'm all good, but then I fully just don't remember from there. Yeah. And then I was in the hospital, just repeating myself, man, over and over I was 10-second Tom, bro, just resetting. And then once they got the scans back and they heard I was all good, they were having a bit of a laugh about it too. They were like, oh yeah, your mate Liam, you saved him from the mountain. And I was like, oh yeah, getting all just, they were just having a good laugh with it. Yeah, bro.
Making up stories about what you'd done.
Yeah. And then after that, they're like, oh, you should be good in about 2 weeks. And so I was out riding again, and I boosted down this trail, and then my ex-partner was with her mate as well, and I was like, fuck, where are they? I thought that they had bailed, so I started freaking out, boosting back up the trail, all the way back up to the head of the trail, and they weren't there. I was like, oh shit. So me, just I love competitiveness and that. I had my Garmin, I was like, tap the timer to just do another speed run to get down the bottom. 3 pedals in, hit another fucking twig came up into my front wheel, over the top, knocked myself out again. It felt like I just bailed and then got back up.
Yeah.
But later on, I sort of was wondering why I had ants all over me. So I must have been out for a bit for them to crawl onto me.
Yeah.
And yeah, then from there, man, just my whole personality changed. I just started to can I swear and shit on here?
Swear.
Yes, I forgot to ask at the beginning. Yeah, I just turned into a kind of a thing, man. I'm really reactive. my ex-partner at the time, her dad was going through like dealing with cancer at the time, so I was fully just dismissive of like her experience and what was going on because I was so in my head and I couldn't see properly, all that sort of stuff. So
Wow.
after a while, man, like I don't blame her for leaving at the time. Like, man, I was fucked. And then that there just added to the whirlwind, bro. Like, so I was just going downward spiral, and I just didn't seem to come right, bro, from my head injury.
And this was 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, it lasted for so I got post-concussion syndrome. It lasted for about 7 to 8 months. Like I had blurry vision, and I'd have like little speckles of like 1 hour where I could see properly. And like I even went to the optometrist and got my eyes done. And then I went to this wizard of a man, like naturopath dude, and he's like, "Nah, don't wear the glasses because your eyes will start adjusting to that lens instead of healing into what it is." And he was doing like some crano, like I don't know what it was, but he helped me, man, big time. Got me on like real strong
Pressure points on your head and stuff.
Yeah. Like I was out of it, man. Like he'll do this massage. I was like, "How'd you learn?" He's like, "Man, just trial and error over the years." And he was doing that stuff, and then gave me like real high dosage of magnesium and all that. And then I started to come right, but I was still doing like, I was sleeping around, taking on the coke, just getting fucking wild every weekend, just running away from what I was dealing with, and also just feeling like something was wrong with me, man.
Yeah.
So I wasn't coming right. Couldn't do what I love, like mountain biking, training, all the fitness, bro. I'm just super active. So that was taken away. So I was just a bit of a muppet, bro. Like,
Yeah.
and then my barber, so my good mate, he's real, like, he came over from Gold Coast, moved over, like, saviour, man. Like, he came over the time where my ex left, so we moved in together, so it was good to have him there to support and help me. And then he's real anal about his haircuts.
Yes.
So he's like going around all of Perth, like finding, he's like, "Oh, this shit, like
Trying to find the right barber.
Yeah, bro. And then he found the bro Jack, and then I went and got a haircut from him, and then he introduced me to a good friend. They're both good friends of mine now, Ollie, and then he introduced me to Justin, which was my ended up becoming my first mentor.
Yeah.
But I went in the group in there and done the whole like program.
What was that program?
Like the way it was structured, it was like 12 weeks, and it was like a full like rebuild sort of structure, like removal of stuff at the beginning, and then it was a mixture of like group calls every week with everyone, so you could see everyone else that was battling and what they were going through, and you could relate with that. And then also like what are your values, and like just building that. Like I never knew any of that my whole life.
And so what were you, just to quickly paint a little picture of what you were like before the accident. So you were super active, super positive, super into everything, and then you slap your head. You're now like just can't collect your thoughts, can't focus on anything, finding yourself getting really angry, and then you've gone on this journey, gone from barber to his mate, and then he's now said, "Hey, bro, do this 12-week thing."
Yeah, bro, yeah. So like the way that Justin was talking about what was going on, I was like, man, I relate to this.
Yeah.
It's like he just knew what was going on for me, and like going through that, man, and I sort of naturally took like leading position in the group. Like I'd always be like reaching out to other men, like, "Man, how you going?" and doing that. And I think Justin seeing that too, and he was like, I think it'd be good to get in and do this as become a coach and mentor other men and stuff. And I was like, fuck it, like let's do it. And then like COVID and all that was going down then, and then I moved back here. Yeah. And I made the decision while I was in quarantine up in Auckland. I was like, I'm going to be a men's coach, man. So went all in on that, and that's kicked off the journey, bro. Like that was about 8 months in of doing the mentoring with Justin. I started taking on clients here. Yeah. And first of all, I just done them like for free. They had like, it was like a commitment, like a deposit as a commitment, like, because when things are free, no one really commits, man. So I was like, I made a deal. I was like, you give me $500. Yeah. I'll work with you for 12 weeks. And then if you give me a testimonial at the end, I'll give you your $500 back.
Oh, how good.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So anyone out there that's looking to get some clients, man, it's a good way to start, because then they got some skin in the game as well. Yeah. Because they're like, cool. If I don't show up, I had like you have to show up at least 90%, like with the tasks.
Yeah.
And then you have to come to every call. If you don't, it's void, and I keep the money.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
you know they keep
good.
that there. Yeah, bro.
That's a great way.
But man, no one wanted their money back.
Yeah. No.
I was like, fucking, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And so how many? So you started off. That would have been 2021.
yeah,
COVID.
I can't
How
remember
good?
specific timeline,
Yeah, no.
but yeah, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
that's
like
wicked.
pretty early days.
Yeah.
Yeah. How like
COVID kicked off so many things for people like that.
yeah,
eh?
it was a blessing, man. Eh?
Yeah.
Like yeah,
Get time to sit and collect your thoughts and think, fuck, am I actually going to go for the thing that I really want in my life? Or am I just going to go and do the normal thing again?
Yeah, bro. So that kicked that off, and then I still felt like there was aspects of my psyche or things where I was missing, and also with the men that I was working with, like I felt like a lot of the work I was doing was definitely working, man. Like there was great outcomes and all sorts of stuff, but there was still like, it was because a lot of the work that I learnt was like adding on things, not subtracting. So it's like a lot of it's like out of reaction and all sorts of stuff. And that's the main reason a lot of us go into doing the work or trying to make changes, because of pain and reaction, right? Eh? And then I met my current mentor I have now, teacher, Jag, absolute legend. He's solid as, and he taught me all about subconscious prisons, programs, and negative emotional addictions. And then that was like really hitting the part, and then that's where my work went from 12 weeks to 4 weeks. Oh. So I'll be working with men sometimes by about the third session. It'll just turn into teaching, not even working with them anymore, because I was like, what do you want to talk about today? What do you want to uncover? I don't know. There's nothing to talk about.
Oh, good.
They're good. Yeah. So it's wild, man. Like it was almost, when you hit these programs, it's like simultaneous change from that, because it's like you're hitting the truth, not trying to just add on to things, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. It's just I haven't done any of that work myself. Like I've probably still got a lot of things to unlock and figure out.
Yeah.
But that sounds wicked. So in the 12-week course, you're trying to get the same result, and then now with the learning about the prisons and stuff, you just did the same thing, but you could reduce it down to 4 weeks and make it more powerful.
Yeah. So the 12 weeks was basically at the big, like, there's a lot of chaos going on in their life. It's a majority of men that I work with are out of a relationship, same sort of situation as me. Like, you always work with your previous self in a way. So yeah, like just laying some foundations first. So like do like a values elicitation, like what's aligned to their self. Yeah. Because it's like, it's quite hard to pick what your values and all that are, but I learned to pick it up through their language. It's like, because like a lot of the things that we want in life, like let's say like you like want the family or the house or whatever that may be, it's not the actual thing that you want, it's the feeling and the emotion that comes with it.
Yeah.
So through that, asking what they actually want, if there was no like ceiling in their life, you can start hearing what they talk about a lot, like connection or love or, achievement or whatever that may be. And then that give them 5-6 values, start fulfilling them every day. And then through that, just start doing like a personal history elicitation, like whole sort of backstory. Then you start linking up patterns that have gone in their relationship, and then what are their limiting beliefs around things, sort of reframe around that. And just depending on like sort of where they are, just sort of tailor different things. Like you can create like a leverage point. What part of their life could they focus on the most that would bring the most gain everywhere else? There's always that one spot. Yeah.
And on that, guys, it's also super important to us that this gets out to more people. So if you can, and you got some value from it, please share it on your social media, tag your friends in it, send it to someone that you think may get some value from it.
So that if we can get on good guests and ask them great questions, then hopefully everyone that's listening gets some value out of it, and we can keep bringing on better guests with the experiences that you need help with. This is so good.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. So there's that, and then towards the end, like just sort of just custom what's sort of going on, like maybe restructure some goals, or what's their big vision, that sort of stuff. So
and then they've got like small actions. Weeks. Yeah, some small actions to take each day. because it sounds like you break it down into the 5 main like kind of focus points or the values that they've got, and then you're trying to create that in their life without actually having to achieve the house, the car, the family.
Yeah, because you can, like, the thing is like, there's a whole illusion, like, I've got to gain this to feel this way, or I've got to have that to get, but that's all an illusion. Like, all of our senses are all outward, but it's an internal game. Like, when you're operating full and whole internally, then external, it's like, doesn't matter. Yeah. So you can fulfill those feelings every day, like, or fulfill your values, and then you're going to feel good all the time, instead of I've got to have that to feel that way. Yeah,
nice. So like, if your value is connection, your daily thing's going to be like, how do I make the time to find connection with, like, my brother, or like a good friend, or something, and you just try and join a sports team.
Yeah. So like, I give them like call it like a daily insight journal, where it'd be like, how do I fulfill my values today? And then they reflect, like, hung out with my brother, or whatever that may be, and then I challenge them to look for something different. It's like reflecting on the day, and then how can I do it better tomorrow? And also, it's like, you want to think outwardly and inwardly. Like, say, for example, for me, connection would be outwardly hanging out with mates, but connection for me would also be having a surf and sitting in the ocean.
Oh, nice.
Like, you don't have to be with people to feel connection.
Yeah. Just life.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly, bro. Yeah, so
I love that.
That's the, like, what the 12-week looked like, and then with the subconscious prisons and programs and all that, totally different. It's just uncracking, like, their patterns, their operating. It's like the operating software of the psyche. It's like, we have a good way to, like, look at it is, you have a computer, right, and you got the heart, like the main driver. Yep. And then you've got like a computer screen, and I think like a lot of things, like, going to the gym, or doing ice baths, or whatever that may be, all you're doing is just changing the screen, and it's still operating from the same software. Yeah. So like, once you hit the virus in the software, then you just change. Yes. So it's like taking the glasses off. Yeah. So basically, on whatever was going on in their life, like, were they always abandoning themselves, or are they anxiously attached, or do they feel unsafe, or do they have anger problems? Whatever that is, they all operate from different programs, and then once you see what the programs are, then they just change and stop being reactive, because it's all like cause is like the experience that was created when they were younger, and then they're just living out the effect, but without being aware of it. Yeah. So then once you bring the awareness out of it, you go from living out of reaction to living out of choice, because you can see it everywhere.
And so that's like just a boom, unlock, now I can't unsee it when you get those unlocks.
Exactly. Yeah, okay. Man. Yeah. You, like, everyone experiences those unlocks. It's like, once you see it, it's like it's like if you told, like, your mate about his missus and she does some weird stuff with her teeth or whatever, and then you've just stitched him up and he just sees it all the time. He's like, fuck you, bro. Like, why'd you tell me about that?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Like, I can think of a few things that I see, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah, and then you can't. Oh, we had a guest on here because I have a friend who's like super fit and healthy, and his motto was that, like, you can eat as much butter as you want, butter's natural. And then we had a podcast guest on here, and he's like jacked as mad. He's been a personal trainer his whole life, and he was like, bro, butter's no good. And like, now I just can't enjoy eating butter anymore, when I had like a good year long of just enjoying butter because one friend had told me that it was good, and then bloody got that whole ruined. As soon as you've seen it or heard it, and then now I understand the information, I can't unsee it, so I can't just lather my thing up with butter anymore, or like put a big scoop in my eggs.
It's wild when you like start looking into that sort of stuff too. It's like you're either being influenced or influencing, right, all the time. But like, then you go into the world of like diagnosis and stuff. Like, I'm real anti-diagnosis, because people think that it's freeing knowing what's going on, but it actually creates a ceiling. Yeah. Because it's like the thing is like, well, I can't have butter. Yeah. So it's like, well, I can't have it. But it's like, if you're oblivious to it, because your mind's so powerful, it will create a sickness to what you think you have going on. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like
I
if
agree.
someone's
It's like the placebo
self-diagnosed.
effect.
Yeah, well, exactly, man. It's
Yeah.
like if someone's self-diagnosing themselves, like, oh, I've got poor attention span, or I'm ADHD, or whatever. You know, they self-diagnose themselves, and then
Google Doctor.
then they're just using all of that as an excuse, like, oh, I'm just not. No, I can't do that. It's just like, bro, you're just not interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, because ADD is a classic that's been thrown around everywhere at the moment, and it's just, I feel like there's just lots of people who don't have something that they are that interested in. Like I don't know, definitely people tell me that I'm ADD, but I don't know if I'm ADD because I've recently in the last few years found a way to focus. And like last night, I teleported to 12:10 doing an edit on my computer, and it was like the top thing on my to-do list. And in my head, because I was just so interested in what I was trying to create and what I was doing, I sat down at 8:30 and then and literally teleported to 12:10, and I promised myself I'd go to bed at 10:30. Never even saw 10:30 rock past. And and that was something I could never ever do before finding something that I was that interested in. And so I would have classed myself as someone who couldn't focus, couldn't sit down and do one task for any period of time. But then now that I've found the thing that I'm quite interested in, I lose 3 or 4 hours in a row, like weekly. I'll sit down. Sometimes, like, it's a couple of times a week now, I'll get lost in those trances where I'm just into the thing that I'm doing.
Flow state.
Yeah. And so, like, your mind, once it does find the thing, well, I think it's all about attaching meaning and purpose to the stuff that you know you need to do. Or if it's something you need to do and you can't be bothered doing it, just try and make it fun. There's some way that's a little bit more fun. And if you're always looking for the bit that's fun, you've now got energy, and then you do the thing, and instead of sitting down and watching a movie, you've now filled with energy, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that thing I know I need to do, or I should do.
Yeah. The why is super important. It's like the driver, the emotional outcome of things, and it's wild, man. Like,
Sorry, I just steered us away from the prisons and
no, that's cool, man. Yeah. It's like I'll give you like an example, I guess, of how it works if you want, like around it. So like,
I'd love to learn.
So let's say, for example, you grew up in a household that, like, this is quite a common thing I see with a lot of men. Like, you grow up, there's like multiple ways that these can be created, but you grew up in like a household where your family was quite explosive, and it can be in like multiple ways. Like maybe, you know, your dad would randomly yell out of nowhere, or you'd get beaten up, or like just physical violence, or your mum would get beaten up, or like, you know, just violence going on in the household, right? So when you're young, your nervous system's going to be shot. You're going to always be sitting on edge, like worried, like, when's the next thing going to happen? When's the next thing going to happen, right? So you're sitting there, and this thing starts getting like molded into your as an identity, right? It's a mechanism that becomes a part of you, and, you know, of the ego, right? And the more it gets embedded, the more it becomes yourself. And then we have all these, like, I like to say we have like thousands of identities that come together and create a persona, right?
Yeah.
And then you have all these identities that are operating subconsciously. So this here would have been, you know, they've probably got some conscious memories of, you know, the violent upbringing or these explosive environments. But it's like the identity that's been created through that experience keeps operating, because one of our biggest fears is identity death. That's why change can be so hard. Yeah. So our ego will do everything it can to create evidence to prove that it's still alive and operating. So this is like the anxiety driver, one of these prisons, and that prison is, I'm not going to be okay.
Yeah.
So,
but then how do you get through it if it's subconscious? So
the thing is like, if you're operating out of that prison, right, and you say, I'm not going to be okay, it'll land for you. It'll a bodily reaction, or you'll have memories come up. Like, people that are listening that might have been through the experiences that I just talked about, and you actually sit there and say, I'm not going to be okay. Your ego can sometimes go into deflection straight away and try and correct when you say it. No, I'm going to be okay. You'll deflect it, but actually really sit with it. Say it like a statement, downward inflection, I'm not going to be okay. And it might land in your body, and you'll feel it. Like it's wild. Like, it can be heat, it can be cold. Like, a lot of that can be to do with like how was your nervous system back then. A lot of thoughts will come up because you've landed on the truth, right? And so then how this will actually play out in like present time is they'll be creating scenarios and situations in their life to prove that they're not going to be okay. So that's the anxiety driver. They're always worried about something that's happened in the past that is subconscious and not they're not aware of, but they're projecting it into the now.
And they're always worried about something that someone's going to do, something that someone's going to do.
Yeah. They're worried about like when's the next explosion going to be. So they're always going to be on edge, or as soon as there's some conflict in their life, like with their partner or whatever that may be, they'll push them away or they'll separate themselves because it's just basically the young kid that's scared that they're going to get it exploded.
Yeah.
You know, when they were younger. So that's still operating because that's a part of their psyche, right? And then once you hit it, like a good example of like, because it's the words that bring out the memory, right? It's like when I say, don't think about a red car.
Yeah.
You think about it.
Instantly.
Exactly. So it's like I'm not going to be okay, sort of, well, that's like basically what was the operating feeling of like, man, I'm not going to be okay. I'm sitting here, there's explosions going on in the house. And then that's where...
Because it doesn't even have to be violent or anything. It can just be like, you know, like you just, you know, maybe your mum yells at you and or she's like, really, you want to ask a question or something and you got to wait till they're in the right mood in order to ask the question that you know you really want help with. And so you're always like sitting there anxiously going like, is this the right time? I don't know if I'm going to get a reaction.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, exactly.
Because it doesn't even have... Because when you're a kid, you don't actually know the levels of severity are all relative. So like even if you've had a good upbringing and all that kind of stuff, like just your mum yelling at you could be like a 10 out of 10 for like, oh my God, can't believe
big time, man.
And then you know that's completely different perspective to some like the kids I used to teach last year who, like one of them hid under a couch for days on end, and the only person who ever knew that's where she hid, because her parents used to think she ran away, but she was literally under the couch starving and not drinking because everyone's trying to find her and she doesn't want to take the beating. And so she would hide under the couch for like days. And I was like, oh my God, that's a whole nother level of just, I don't even know how you get through that. But like, it just doesn't matter the severity, because when you're a kid, you just see it as a 10 anyway, because that's what you're not used to anything else.
Well, that's the thing too. And then like that experience too that you're living out, that becomes your norm.
Yeah.
So like that becomes almost what safety is and certainty is for you, right? So this is where when people are in like relationships and things are going really well and like calm and like, oh, this is all good, then your subconscious goes, no, this isn't normal. I'm going to create some self-sabotage to create some chaos because that's what I'm used to living in.
Yeah.
So like, because we want certainty, and then yet again, that's that like our identity of that, like, you know, not feeling safe or I'm not going to be okay playing out because it wants to stay alive.
Okay. And then so how does someone start to become aware of that and try to like change their program?
That's the program right there. Like that's when the change happens, because you can see like, where am I creating situations to prove that I'm not going to be okay?
Yeah.
Because you're going to be okay, but previously you were operating out of the glasses, this vision of I'm not going to be okay. So you're going to see that everything's going on around you, right? Like you think like, if I go outside, I'm going to get attacked. Or if I go there, something's going to happen to me. But because you were unaware, you were operating out of it, you were thinking consciously, I'm going to get attacked or whatever, but it was just you thinking that your dad's going to fucking yell randomly, or your dad's going to whack you over the ears. But you unaware of that. That's what the operating is. So once you see it, you're like, ah, fuck. You're almost like some of the men, like when they see it, and it's either like, they just have a laugh, like, fucking hell, I can't believe I didn't see that. Yeah. Like, it's so basic.
Yeah.
Or it can be a huge release. It's different for everyone.
Because the hiccup I have is like, I have a complete irrational fear of sharks. And like, even like jumping off the train bridge at the causeway here, if I'm doing it in summer, it was mean because there's always other people around and stuff. But now I'm doing it in the winter and I dive off and like, all the time, I'm just like, it's about to hit me. It's about to hit me. It's about to hit me. Because I just watched Jaws and like Deep Blue Sea and all those movies when I was younger. And they just sat there. And so now I have to like consciously be like, there's no shark going to hit me. But every probably 5 or 10 seconds, I'll like revert back to like, it's about to hit me. And then I have to override it with like, it's not going to hit me.
Well, because like, I think with that as well, like you have your standard, like, you know, your fear of heights, which is actually just like fear of falling. Like these are more like based on survival, right? Because
Yeah.
everything's all based off survival.
Yep.
Like all of our identities, we just want to survive, so we'll do whatever that takes, right? But that there's more of a fear that it's not going to be something that's playing out from something that's been embedded when you're younger. Maybe, but
Yeah.
I don't think that would be. If you're worried about things that are going to happen all the time around everywhere else, then it's like, okay, cool, there's some stuff going on there. But
Yeah.
if it's just the ocean,
Yeah.
it's like I go surfing and I think about the shark breaching underneath me and all that every now and again, you know.
Yeah.
But that's from the fucking movies too.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Because if that was me, that's probably the main reason why I don't surf and never got to do it.
Oh, bro, over here's like there's nothing that's gonna happen, man. You're missing out, bro.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Going out like
Should get out
surfing
there.
in WA was wild. Like when you're hearing, I remember going down Margaret River. There's this place, I think they call it the Dark Side of the Moon,
Yeah.
and one of the bros, like mates, was like, "Oh yeah, I was out yesterday and I seen a great white breach," and I was like, "Oh man, can't wait to go out tomorrow." Like, thanks, bro. You know,
Yeah.
like, yeah. So,
Well,
yeah,
my little brother was spearfishing off Leisure Island just there, and he noticed there were no fish around and looked over his shoulder and saw a great white spearfishing just off the shore here. So that wasn't a story that made me want to go spearfishing or surfing.
yeah.
I'm like, why am I entering the food chain when I don't have to?
Yeah, oh, true that, bro. Because it is a bit of an outer, like
Yeah.
you're not fully in control, eh? Like it's
Yeah.
less
It
with
is cool
like
though.
mountain biking or whatever. It's your fault if you hit the tree.
Yeah,
You know, it's not like some random circumstance.
yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. Okay, so what are some of the classic prisons that people find themselves in, other than feeling anxious about maybe?
well, I
Not
mean,
really.
around like
Because one that I saw on your Instagram that I really liked was talking about how we self-sabotage because we solve problems differently to females, and then we use our partner as a project. That video,
so
I
like
really
the whole like
resonated
try
with
not
that.
to fix her.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
we're just facts and logic, man. Like we love to, you know, fix and discard. You know, to get a task done. Boom, just like
yeah,
smash it. So around that, it's like it all depends on the context, I guess. Like
Yeah.
I'm not a relationship coach, man. Like I'm not, you know, this is all just stuff I've learned through my mentors or whatever. Like just random things here and there. Like,
yeah,
but it's more like if they've got a problem that's going on like emotionally, it's just like about being there and not
Talk through.
dismissing
yeah.
like their experience, because like we just want to feel heard and seen, man. And I guess when you go into like solutions, even though you can probably see like a clear solution, like why it's going on, it's still just better to just be like, do you actually want a solution, or just holding that space for them to express and just being steady with it. But like I think a lot of men, and speaking for myself previously, like in the past, we couldn't handle that emotion that they would bring to the table, so we would react.
Yeah,
You know, like we can only hold emotions or chaos to the point that we've experienced it ourselves
yeah,
internally. So that's where we can be like, or it can be like they're attacking our ego. So we're like, I want to be right. So you're like, do this, or we're like, I fucking told you so. You should have listened to me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, because we want to be right, man.
Because when I watched that video, I really cracked up because my wife comes to me with different things, and then I instantly go to like, I actually get a piece of paper out and then write a list of all the things. And I'm like, so if I can cross everything off that list.
Yeah.
And it's just when I heard your video, that's the classic, just like dude trying to solve a problem, and then let's just get all these problems off the list. And then we're all good, then there'll be nothing there. But it's more around, you know, we talked about our love languages and created like a focus point on me trying to create quality time with her and the kids that's, you know, specifically designated for them. And then that's kind of helped alleviate a lot of the issues there.
Yeah, nice.
And then it saves the lists and the list making, and then the argument back and forth, like, why do you keep making a list? There's no positive things on here.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to create structure around something that's a human isn't structured like that, you know. It's like, well, we should be operating like this, like it says on the paper. Yeah, bro.
So that's classic. And then so you've got these prisons. What are some other classic prisons that people find themselves in?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of them, eh? Like there's 15 like main ones, but then you have like specific ones. You can be like more tailored to people, but I mean, where would it go around specific prisons?
Yeah.
Well, I guess a big one for men. So if you have men that are, you know, hyper controlling, trying to control situations, trying to control their partner, trying to control everyone at work.
Yeah.
Trying to, you know, they trying to have everything in their certain place in the house. They have to be so specific because, like, if you're pretty chaotic up here, you'll try and control the external environment to try and create some form of safety.
Yeah. Usually that's done subconsciously, eh? Like, because those people that are in those situations, sometimes they mean really well for everyone around them, and they're like, I'm just trying to make you be better. And I'm just trying to like make sure that everything's in line so that all my checklists are just tick, 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 tick. And then I don't have to think about them anymore, so I don't have to have anxiety about whether you are or aren't doing the thing.
Yeah, well, but that thing is like, what are you proving to yourself when you're trying to control the uncontrollable?
Wow, I don't know.
That you're not in control.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, so like that's what's
and
like.
you would enter some Inception kind of style thoughts here.
Well, yeah, well, because that's the thing is like if you're like internally like quite chaotic up here, you're going to try and create certainty out here, but you can't create certainty out here, so it's just sort of proving that you're not in control. So it's like it's like the powerless. I'm powerless. It's a big one.
So then, what are some classic things that someone does? So because it's hard to be aware of what you do when you've always done that. And so, like, I'm just trying to think for someone to have a takeaway. How do you understand that you're one of those kind of controlling people? And what are some good thoughts to have in order to just slowly start being okay with not being in control?
Yeah, so like that, so because that sort of operates as well as like the I'm not going to be okay as well. Like that's like you're trying to create certainty in the environment, right? Just like I guess it's like focusing on what you can control.
Yeah.
And like, what are you trying to control that is uncontrollable? Because all you're doing is creating more chaos for yourself. Because like going back to, we try and create certainty, or we're trying to create the same environment that we grew up in. So it's like if you're had like a chaotic environment, then you're going to try and create chaos in your life by trying to control everything and by trying to have everything structured.
Yeah.
Because that's just proving to yourself that you're out of control.
Okay.
So the more you try control, the more powerless you are.
And so that's like, it's almost like a bungee jump or like a base jump for someone that, you know, if in your mind you've always kind of had control, and then your thought process of trying to control everything is that if I can like sort that out and this out and this out and that out, then everything will be sweet forever, and then I won't have to control everything anymore, and I'll be fine. But then understanding or trying to understand that not having control is actually going to allow me to have the most control because I don't mind what happens. That is like a base jump for that person.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, where's all my logic and where's all the things to cling on to here?
Yeah, yeah.
And so what are some classic things that people can do to try and create
the
stability in that base jump?
Well, I mean, it's hard because like I get this question all the time, right? Like, what do I do? It's like you don't need to do anything.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, it's like when you're always trying to be doing, you're just adding on.
Yeah.
Like out of it, like you're just reacting to it.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I mean, it just goes back to like, were you trying to look and control everything? Like, like why? Like why? Ask yourself why. Like why do I try and do that? Like why? Why? Just keep asking why.
Yeah.
Like keep diving layers, like all the way down, and then you'll probably find all because I feel a little bit out of control.
Yeah.
It's like, well, why do I feel out of control? Like where did I used to feel out of control? Back in the past, because everything's just patterns reconfirming an identity and a belief. It's like if you believe in aliens, you're going to go on the internet and find everything to do with your beliefs to confirm your belief system, right? Yeah. And that's why, like, when you challenge people that have real strong beliefs around things, they get really reactive because you're threatening a death of themselves. Because if you prove them wrong, then a part of themselves has to die.
And then people just don't want to let go.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why we stay
Trapped.
People will stay in the same things for
Prison.
their whole life. It's like a prison, man.
There we go.
Yeah, brother. So yeah, it comes up in all different forms. It's like, the thing is like with a lot of the prisons, like, you know, you couldn't just go out on a megaphone and go, you know, I'm not going to be okay. You know, say this, you know. You got to give a bit of context. Like, they've got to see the patterns in their life and then go, okay, cool, and then it will land for them.
Yeah, and it's, because I feel the way I like to look at it is just continuous progress. And if you can find a fun way to like start catching yourself, and instead of being like, oh, you always do that, be like, I always do that. That's just something I always do. I'm going to try be better. And if I can catch myself in this moment and enjoy just making a little change, then I'll probably catch myself sooner, and I'll be able to catch myself more often. And then the more often I can catch myself, and the sooner I can catch myself, because the sooner you catch yourself, the easier it is to steer the ship. And then the more often you catch yourself, you know, you just start steering the ship automatically. And then so then you just like can keep yourself more on the path that you want to be on with less effort.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the ethos that I try to help people with, is just being okay with catching yourself in the situation that you already, like, if you've done that your whole life and then you've now become aware of it, there's no point in getting into a deeper hole because you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize how often I did this thing. It's like, bro, you already did that. That's okay. And then let's just start making these little 1% changes as often as possible. And then you'll have fun steering the ship in the direction you want to go.
Yeah, 100%, bro. I think like it's like you just find the driver. Like why are you doing it? What are you trying to create?
Yeah,
like that's a good one. Like why am I doing this? Why am I trying to create this? What am I trying to prove here?
Yeah,
because a lot of, well, majority of the things that we do, it's out of a reaction, cause and then reaction, and it's like a good example. So you have like like passive and active states of reaction. So like a drug addict that used to be addicted to smashing heaps of drugs, and then they go into hitting the gym, but then they become addicted to the gym to the point where it's unhealthy.
yeah.
So they've just gone from one to the other. Yes, one's way better, but it's still detrimental to them because they haven't hit the root cause of why they are doing that. They've just gone from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah. And so what's one possible root cause of that addiction? Sorry, just because I know there'll be people listening to this now who go like, I used to be on drugs and man, I cycle heaps or whatever it is, because you know, people either get into biking or running or, you know, or whatever it might be.
There's so many different things. It's like,
I'm just trying to figure out how someone that's listening right now could just become aware of it and go like, shit, this is me. And then, but then without leaving them with, I still don't know what to do. They walk away with a little something that they can drive into their life and go like, this is making a big change.
Yeah.
Maybe just trying to find balance, or like maybe a value around balancing things.
Well, I mean, because I guess like if you go like image, maybe like it's like image based, right? You could be operating out of, you know, like I hate myself.
Yep.
So it's like you go into, so a big thing, I'll speak from my experience, like I guess people could relate to this, is I only sort of uncovered this recently. So discipline for me was beating myself up. It's like because I was addicted to deprivation, man. Like I was addicted to depriving myself of things. So what I would do is I would go and, you know, set up myself challenges, 75 hard, or do not eat sugar and not do this. Like, yes, it's all good for my health and growth, but for me it was taking away things from myself to beat myself up. Yeah. You know?
And then if you're beating yourself up, then you're growing and getting better, and then you just go harder and harder and harder, or?
Well, no, because I was beating myself up to deprive myself of things because I was deprived when I was younger.
Okay.
You know, I was deprived from like that, yet again, that deprivation cycle became certainty for me. Yeah. So like a reflection of love and nourishment for me. So you think about like nourishment as like, you know, being held and all that sort of stuff, but like nourishment for me, to some aspect, was being deprived of that. So you think about like a love language, was deprivation. So then I continued the cycle of deprivation, depriving myself of sleep, depriving myself of you know, feeling good. Yeah. So that's what I would do, is I'd sabotage.
Yeah.
I'd set myself up for a discipline, and then when I seen that, well, then I choose to do things because it's for the better of my health, and because I want to do it, not out of a reaction of beating myself up. You don't deserve this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And so you turned it around by adding in the reason why you wanted to do it. Like, I want to do it because it sounded like the going to the gym, being addicted to going to the gym, and the excuse of it being better for me was the excuse. But then it also sounds like if you do it in moderation, it's the solution.
Yeah. Well, exactly. But like the thing is I, like when I would start doing it in say moderation, it wasn't really the gym for me, but it was like more of doing the gym too much. You know, training way too much, like just constantly fighting with myself.
Yeah.
But when I would go back to just doing it to a good amount, I'd feel like I'm not doing enough, and then go back into that because I'm not depriving myself again. So then seeing it, like when I seen that, then it changed.
And how do you maintain balance? That's the next question.
Well,
so like noticing you're going too hard, and then just like trying to beat yourself up. You're catching yourself, and then you're going like, hey, this is the thing that I always do. And then you're kind of telling yourself like, we don't need to do this anymore. We're just going to do it because it's healthy. If I'm bashing myself, it's not healthy.
Yeah, well,
you know, is that the kind of conversation that's going on?
Yeah, no, it's
or
like,
how do you?
It's, well, once it was brought to my awareness.
Yep.
So like, I believe majority of our suffering comes down to lack of awareness, right? Like once you have awareness of why you're doing things, like the true driver and why, you start to separate from it. So for me, there's still elements of the deprivation showing up in my life. It was a huge one for me.
Yeah.
But seeing it, so it's like that identity of that is slowly going away and then it'll dissolve. But I can see it sort of push-pull coming back because that identity is like a strong one that wants to stay here.
So one of the keys I'm just seeing and hearing here is just learning to see it and then not beating yourself up about every time you see it from now on. And then just realizing like, hey, that's me.
Well, there it is. It's like, there's that motherfucker playing out again. You know, it's like I'm not going back to the I'm not going to be okay. It's like, well, there's that's just that playing out. I am going to be okay.
Yeah.
But without the awareness of it, you're just operating out of it.
Yeah.
So that's the answer, is just awareness.
Okay.
So like once you actually hit the core driver of why you're doing things, things just change. It's like we're talking about when you have those light bulb moments and you can't unsee things. That's the answer there. So I guess it's quite hard for me to like, if we were, let's say we were working together and we're just speaking here and you're talking about what's going on for you and I was helping you deconstruct it, see the patterns, the programs, like all that sort of stuff, then it makes more sense because I could put it all together and then someone could probably see that and go, oh shit, that's what I do. That's what I'm doing. Then they would see it in themselves and then they would just start changing.
Yeah.
But for me to be like, oh, there's that, and that, I think I know that a lot of people that listen to this about the I'm not going to be okay, they'll relate to that one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because I've had a few clients who like have big businesses and stuff that, you know, in conversation talk about how they started the business for their family and like to provide lots of, because that's quite a common one, is you like work yourself to the bone to provide for your family. And then when I ask, it's like, well, so what kind of things do you do with your family or for your family because of that? And it's usually something like a trip, like an extravagant trip once a year here and there, or like the like quite luxury like things every now and then. And then I said, what, like when I asked this question, like, what do you reckon your kids would want? Pretty much everyone says, oh, they just want me to be there every day. And then sometimes that just goes kaboom, because quite a lot of them have the resources to do that pretty much straight away if they wanted to. But it's this, like, it started out as I'm doing this for the kids, and then you get into the grind, and then you're like, I just don't want to fail, and I don't want to be a failure. And then that I don't want to be a failure like starts this snowball rolling that even one of my clients used this analogy, which was freaking banger. He's like, my business just took off. And it wasn't me trying to push it. I felt like I was freaking had a rope around it, trying to like slow it down, and it's just rolling down the hill faster than I could ever slow it up. And then I just kind of got lost in the chaos. And then here we are 6-7 years later, and I'm having this revelation. And, he's switched everything around and spends heaps of time with his kids, and like, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's
And it's just a little boom.
just that
Yeah, he just
shift.
said, well, I was doing it for my kids, and then when he really thought about it, he's like, hang on, my kids just want me here more often, and I can do that today.
Yeah, well,
I can do that starting today.
Interesting you mentioned that too. It's like, that's the thing, is like, yeah, doing it for my kids, but he could have been operating out of just fear of failure. And then that's the whole thing, you know, and then like, is it really for the kids, or is it out of fear of failing?
True.
But yeah,
you attach it to the kids to get the drive at the outset, you know, because like you got to attach it to something to be able to go night and day all the time, because you know, it's hard to do things for yourself that gnarly.
Big time, man.
Yeah,
big time. But like, the thing is, we can think that we're attaching it to some things, but we can actually be attaching it out of a fear or like an operating system, right? Like, because you're consciously just worried about something going on, you know. But yeah, a thing with the kids, man, like, just it came up for me because I've been working with someone recently. Like, for him growing up, he was always suppressed. Like, he had one of those, like, family that told him like what he had to do at school, like, you're playing this sport, like all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. Basically told how to operate. Every time he would come with a problem, he'd get shut down. No, you should be feeling this way. So basically, not being heard or seen his whole childhood, right? And then when he would be with his kid, he would dismiss and deny her too. So he's just playing out the same patterns. Yeah. So, like, once he could see that he was dismissing and denying because he was being dismissed and denied, it's like, holy shit, it's huge perspective change, because it's like, you can't see people if you can't see yourself, like, operating that. Yeah, so it's huge.
One like this, because when I was younger, I always used to get annoyed at my dad being on his phone too much. He was always on his phone. Like, even when I was, because he was like second biggest, like, he was proud of being the second biggest phone user in like all of telecom, like mobile user. And he was just always on his phone, and I would always just try to get his attention, let's go do something. And anything, he's like, yeah, we're coming. And then like, it'd literally be like, you're only tiny, and it's 2 hours later, and you're still like, bro, let's just go and kick this ball outside. And like, I end up like dribbling a basketball by myself and shooting hoops for like hours, and then it never even turn up. And like, I found myself, because I got a brother that's 7 years younger, I would be able to just tune his voice and everything. Like, he'd be tapping me on the leg, and then he'd go like, Nick, and then it'd be like, Nicholas, and then I'd finally like be like, whoa, what? And then I realized I was doing it because I got a 2.5-year-old, and so I've got this like little trip, because for me, because it's subconscious, I'm just repeating the same thing because I will get lost on my phone. I think it's really important to be replying to this message. My son has no idea about the message I'm replying to or what importance it could have, you know, like, and so I've set up this little thing where he can come tap me on the leg, and he goes like that. And if I see him do that, that's me. Like, there's nothing that I'm doing right now that's more important than him doing the tap tap. Yeah, I think. And so you got to like kind of find these ways to trigger yourself in, because they are subconscious habits, and then you just kind of have a funny way. Like, because when my 2.5-year-old's trying to, because he doesn't even get it right sometimes, he's like pointing at different things, but he like taps me on the leg and just tries to do it, and it just cracks me up. And so I stop what I'm doing. This is more important, because that was, and I try to see it like it was me when I was little. And I have a loop of like, what would you want your dad to do in that moment? And then I'm the dad. I could freaking do it.
Yeah. The funny thing is like, you're being your dad.
Yeah, hard.
Like, it's just like you're just modeling out what you see, right? Like, yeah. And then you like you said, it's like you imagine what the kid wants, but you think about like, what did you want? You just wanted to be hanging out with your dad, right? Yeah. And then you feel like you don't matter in that situation, and then it's like then that starts becoming an operating thing, and then we start creating situations where we prove we don't matter and all that stuff. That's a lot of the drivers for, like, you know, like the people pleaser and all that becomes from being dismissed and denied as well. And because, you know, there probably was elements of time, like, let's say, for example, where you got the most attention from your father would maybe because you're doing something, or you're winning at like some sports, or you know, you had to basically do something to get something. So it's like a transactional type love, not just love. And then so that becomes a pattern. I have to do something to get something. So then love becomes conditional. Yeah. So then you keep recreating, and I have to always do something. But if I don't do something, then I get rejected. and then we're just running out of a fear of deep-seated fear of
And
rejection.
do you then project that onto your partner and go like, well, she's not doing anything, I'm probably not going to like her as much? Or does that play out? I'm just asking questions here.
No, it'd be more like, it'd be more from the frame of like, I have to do something for her to get love. Like I've always constantly got to be doing, and then if I say no, then I'm going to get rejected.
Okay.
Yeah, because like the driver of the people please is just fear of rejection. Big fear of rejection.
And so you just say yes to way more than you.
Yeah, well,
ever
because
would.
if you say no to someone, you fear that they're going to leave you or abandon you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you just got to keep.
Because what you're basically proving to yourself by sacrificing yourself all the time to please everyone else is you're just pushing yourself away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so what kind of things can you do to turn that one around? I'm trying to just add little nuggets everywhere.
Yeah.
Because when people are listening to this, I just love to have a podcast where, like, when you're listening to it, you hear a scenario, and then I hate walking away from the podcast thinking, man, I wish they actually solved that bit for me, because there's still like a little kink missing where I can't execute. And if someone's sitting there listening going, oh, I'm such a people pleaser, what do I do about it?
Yeah, so the driver of the people pleaser. So it's because I'm sitting here thinking like, should I go and start cracking everything, going full like?
Well, you can pick up, you can crack into me if you want. Crack into me, or ask any question you want, or try and dig into just like some generic things that are, because the people pleaser comes from, we've just explained where that comes from, and then someone that's sitting there going like, that's so me. What do they do to start turning it around to like owning their own time? Basically, is what they need to do. They need to turn it around so that they own their own time and learn to say no. Start practicing. Saying no.
Yeah. Well, like, obviously, an easy way is you just do what you're doing for everyone else for yourself. It's just like you just flip the script, right? But it's so hard because you'll just go into like, oh, fuck, everyone's gonna leave me. If I say yes to me for one day, everyone's gonna go.
Yeah. Feels selfish.
It's all
a little bit, even if you just do one thing.
Yeah, big time.
Oh, hang on.
Big time. Like, do you find that something that you do? People pleasing?
I definitely people please like a bit, for sure. I probably do it way more than I know that I do. And that's why I'm trying to dig in, because there's a lot of these things that we're talking about are subconscious, and it's so hard to be aware of. That is something that I am, and that is something that I do. Sometimes the words really resonate and you're like, yo, but then 10 minutes later, you've forgotten this conversation and you'll be people pleasing like anything, because if you don't have something actionable to like become aware, and then what do I do about it to take some small steps, then you'll just continue snowballing the way you already were snowballing.
Yeah. So it's like, well, what do you recall when you're younger, when you'd feel like loved the most? What were you doing?
Oh, it was always chores again.
So doing chores?
Classic, yeah.
Okay,
this resonates
cool.
with me.
Yeah. So like, it was, you had to do, was it mainly with mum or dad? Mum?
Yeah, if I like made my bed and like but I was also really like, I'd get in trouble if I spilt like my breakfast on my shirt and stuff when you're like little.
Yeah. So basically just being human, getting told off, right?
Yeah, get told off. You felt like you're just being told off for being yourself, even though there were classic scenarios where you're just being a manas and you're like trying to get attention. Like, it's definitely not all one way. It's both ways. But when you're a kid, you can't quite discern, because like sometimes it's a genuine mistake and you're getting in trouble and you're like, whoa, I really was trying my hardest there. Yeah. And I just didn't have the skills to execute carrying this plate to that place, you know?
Yeah. So like you got to be someone, right? So like, so when you're younger, basically you're putting on a mask to get love. So like you have to be somebody to it. Like you can't just I can't just be me and get love. That makes sense?
Yep.
So then it becomes transactional.
Yeah.
So then that's operating out of a prison of I'm not loved.
And so how do I convert it from being transactional to a feeling that I can just have?
When you say that, how does it feel?
When I say I need it to be transactional.
I'm not loved.
I'm not loved. Like a dark chasm.
Just go, so sit with it.
Okay.
Like say it, like close your eyes and sit with it. Like, I'm not loved. Yeah. Say it out loud.
I'm not loved.
Where do you feel it in your body?
Like kind of like I don't know, on the back of my throat.
Back of
kinda,
your throat,
and like maybe in the bottom of my stomach.
certain side.
I'm not loved. It's kind of like in the front of my stomach.
Front of your stomach.
Yeah.
Is it warm, cold?
I'm not loved. It's kind of like just a little, when you get like a cold shiver and you go, ooh, and then it like tenses across the front of your stomach.
Yeah,
Maybe like that.
Yeah. So you want to, like, you sit with that, right? In your own time after this, you can sit with the I'm not loved, right? Just really sit with it, let it move until there's no emotional charge with it. That's like the...
Oh, really?
Yeah, do you have any...
How good.
Any thoughts?
And so you just kind of become comfortable with the feeling of not being loved?
Nah, so it's not, it's not like that, man. Like, so
Okay.
did you notice any thoughts or anything come up around when you said that?
I tried to just envision what feeling not loved was, and I just imagined like sitting on like a rock in the middle of like a dark cave by yourself.
Yeah.
And just being like, I'm not loved. But then, because I do this looping stuff in my head, I'm like, wow, you're just by yourself, make it fun in the cave, light a fire.
Yeah. So because you go straight into
problem solving.
Yeah. So what our ego will do is like it'll try and deflect from the truth because it wants to keep that story alive, right? So you'll go straight into think no, that's not true. Yeah. But it's like you got to sit with it and because see how your body was reacting to it, like you felt it here. If you feel it in your throat, a lot of that's around suppression.
Yeah.
Because where's your voice come from? Your throat.
Yeah.
So like there was points where you couldn't be yourself or you couldn't express because it's like that fear of being shut down. Right. So it's like the driver of that's one of the drivers of the people pleaser is that the program of I'm not loved, right? So what are you doing to yourself when you're putting everyone's needs before yourself? What are you proving to yourself?
That I don't need love. Maybe, or like I can give it to other people.
Well, when you're sacrificing yourself, you're putting on a mask basically to please everyone else. Yeah. What are you're basically proving to yourself that you're not loved.
True.
That's the thing there, like
because you're the last
in line, brother.
Last in line for everything.
Because like you had to be last in line to get love and affection. Yeah. You had to sacrifice yourself to do something to get something, right? So
you definitely get praise if you like, you got to let everyone else eat first and then you go last and then
give
them the last bit of chicken.
Yeah. So like,
it's like, good boy, you gave the chicken to your friend.
Yeah, bro. Yeah, well, so when you're operating out of the I'm not loved, right? It's like, well, I'm going to put everyone else, I'm going to put all that just to prove that I'm not loved, right?
Yeah. And then that reinforces itself and then you get a feeling of I'm not loved and then it just snowballs in the reverse direction, even though you think you're solving the problem by eating the last bit of chicken.
Yes, well, so it's like...
that's how it becomes this catch-22 in my head that just keeps looping back. It's like...
Yeah, so what you're doing, right, is when you have the lenses on of I'm not loved, right, so there'll be a situation where you'll put everyone before yourself, like let's say the dinner table, you're last to eat. Yeah. It's adding evidence to the proof that I'm not loved, right? Yes. Now you're aware of it, you take the glasses off, I'm just choosing to go last because I'm being polite. So that's one of them's one's situational, and then one of them's like identity confirmation.
Boom. Okay, so you create an identity and a reason why I want to be eating last rather than just doing it out of the I'm not loved.
Yeah, so one's proving the situation and continuing the identity. One's just cool, that's just what I'm doing. Yeah. So it's like I'm not going back to the I'm not going to be okay, right? It's like one's like, oh, there's chaos in the environment. Oh, it's just fucking messy. But then through the eyes of I'm not going to be okay. Oh shit, I'm safe. Someone's going to attack me. Yeah. So see the difference? Like one's it's situational. One's actually confirming an identity. Yeah.
Yeah, because a cool analogy that I thought of is like, because all of your experiences lead up to how you feel and react in the moment and all of that. And then, but depending on your experiences, make you, like certain situations react differently. And one example that I like to give is like, if you're, I don't know why I always vision it at the Mount Pier, like, when you're standing up by the pier and you can look at the mount on that wharf, where the cruise ships, where people come off the cruise ships. I'm always standing there in this example in my mind. And imagine there's two people there, and it's like a hot summer's day, and like someone just runs up and just pushes both of these people in the water. One of them like has swum his whole life and like loves the water and everything, and just like has done manos off there and his whole life. he probably tucks up and does a mean bomb on the way down, you know? And then the other guy's never swum before in his life. And so like for one person, that exact same scenario where just a random person's come up and pushed you both in, one's like struggling for his life, and then the other one's like, well, this is sick, it's hot, just did a mean manu. And like exact same scenario, exact same circumstances. And so like what I try to get people to do is like find ways to select a perspective that allows you to swim in the water that you're in. And the water is just the situation or the environment. And so like, just say it's really messy, or there's chaos everywhere. It's like, well, how do I dance in the chaos? You know, that's a perspective, because there's some people that love that. And, you know, if you've always seen it as a thing that, you know, chaos is bad, I need to close up and get out of it, you can maybe start to just try and see the perspective of, you know, just become an actor in your own life, and just go like, well, how would someone else in my same shoes look at this? And you create a few, like, I call them loops or perspectives.
Yeah, perspective shift, right? Yeah.
Just a perspective shift, and then you just try and, like, you know, shift out to that guy and be like, well, chaos is actually all good, because, you know, when there's chaos, there's always opportunity, because there's problems to solve.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if you look at it like that, whenever you see chaos, you're like, well, there's something to solve, you know, especially if you're a male and you love solving problems.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly, man. Yeah, well, because it's all perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's like helping what changes that perspective, and viewing things through different lenses is super powerful, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on different scenarios, what's playing out. Is it reactional? Is it, you know, is it something new? Like,
sounds like there's a lot I need to dig into, just try and find, because I've always gone like surface level a lot, like you see the situation, how do I flip this, and then change it to get a like feeling, but then I'm probably never attacking the underlying issue that's bringing those up. And then so it's like, I feel like I'm just rocking around with a weed whacker, just trimming all the grass that's popping up.
Well, big time. Like the thing is, this majority of fear or majority of circumstances that are created, it's like all from a past experience, right?
Yeah.
And then the bigger the trauma or like whatever the situation was, the more it will go subconscious, because we don't want it to operate. It's almost, it's like a survival mechanism, right? Like you don't remember certain aspects of your childhood because you don't want to, because it's like it's suffering, right? But that'll still operate. But then once you uncover it, you can change it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, man, there's levels to it, bro. Like, there's layers and layers and layers. And I truly believe, like, when you hit the bullseye, man, shit just changes, bro. Like, big time. Yeah.
Well, so I reckon that we should probably sum up with some, like, little, just, like, overview of what we've chatted about, and, like, what people can do, like, to find you and work out how to get in touch if what we've talked about today has resonated. And so we're going to go through. So there's prisons, there's a 12-week program that you've condensed down to a 4-week program that people can do to try and find these unlocks.
Yeah, so I just work one-on-one currently. Yeah, I'm building out a system that's going to be, you know, I guess more surface level, because you need to be, the way I see it is everyone has like your core 15 problems, but it's all just wrapped up in different stories, you know. It's like you know, you think about cars, like everyone has one car has an alternator problem, but it's all wrapped in a different shell. Yeah. So per se, right? But being able to get that, you need that one-on-one or the group environment. But I'm trying to build something that can help to an extent on that's more of like a lower entry point and an introduction to my work. Yeah. And
so where do people find you?
Just on social media, Instagram at the moment. Just Carl Tjaberings, and
And how do you spell your last name? Because that's
yeah. So Tjaberings, Brings. So
boom.
Yeah, man.
Mate, I've loved digging into these thoughts, and like I've got a lot to unpack, I reckon, and like things that I can just be like, oh my God, I can't believe that's the reason why it's making all these weeds grow everywhere. And it sounds like there are some underlying like big things that you can tackle, like one or two, one of them being that self-love and not being so fearful and reactive, You know,
Yeah,
like,
yeah. It's like what? Let's just like just ask, what am I trying to prove here? Why
Yeah.
am I trying to create this?
Yeah.
And just going why? Like why does this pattern keep showing up?
Yeah.
It's
Trying to
pretty
figure out
wild
what
to
unlock.
see it in yourself, but it's easier to see it in others, man. Like because you're not connected to it emotionally as well.
So, just quickly, would you recommend just chatting about it with a friend, saying like, what are my biggest downfalls? Because sometimes your friend might be willing to tell you that if you give them a safe space to say, and then, just taking on board whatever it is that they actually say.
Yeah, well, for sure. And then also too, what I find super helpful is you just start like listen to the advice that you give to others.
Yeah.
Because majority of it's for yourself.
100%.
And like, or you record things that you're like talking about your problem. Talk about your problems like you're talking to a mate through a voice message, and then re-listen to what you're saying, and you'd be like, oh fuck, listen to me, I'm being such a victim, or like, is the language all blame?
Yeah.
Because we love to blame.
Yeah. And so start pointing those fingers inwards and start just analyzing how you think, why you think what you think, and then understanding once you see the thing, don't beat yourself up about seeing it everywhere now. Because
exactly, bro. Allow yourself to be human, man. Like a human being or being human.
Allow yourself to be human and just tackle things one thing at a time.
Exactly, brother.
Boom.
Focus on the wins.
Bro, great podcast, and thanks for coming on board.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Cheers, man.
Hey.